Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everyone. Welcome to a special Game Week 4 Wildcard pod of the FPL Wire. I'm your host, Zoph, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Late Riser and Prus. Absolutely flying, Prus. How are you feeling?
I mean, Game Week 2 was the flying. I don't think there was no any flying done in Game Week 3. The team, apart from Salah and Haaland, was absolutely rubbish. But
They
that's,
got
I
what,
guess, the point.
51 points between them.
51
So,
points together. But no, it's a good start. It's a good start. And the flying thing is actually, it's good that people are buying my players for the last 2 weeks. So
and you
that
haven't
has
used a
helped in terms of.
transfer. That's what I'm most jealous of.
I've used two, but more on that later.
Ooh, that's interesting. Okay. What about you, Ella?
Doing good, man. Doing good. No complaints. Genuinely, I think the team's fine. Like you obviously feel you see a lot of scores on Twitter, etc., and you feel like, oh, you're lagging behind, 30 points behind this player, 40 points behind this manager. But I mean, I feel like there are so many picks that every week is going to be swinging that you just have to be patient, look at your own team, and tread along.
Yes, I think today we're not going to look as much at the results from the last week, and we look at that on the next Tuesday main part. Today we are here to mainly talk about because I was wavering on the wildcard button a little bit, to be honest. On Sunday evening, I wasn't really sure about it because I didn't see many differences. But once I benchmarked my squad, and we'll talk about more about the exercise, I think every manager needs to do now because it's an exercise pretty much every week we talk about it. Every week you need to benchmark how far away you are from an ideal team since we have the wildcard option. So that's what we're looking for. Today we'll be looking at Game Week 4 wildcard versus Game Week 6 and also certain must-have or essential picks that we like to call them for the Game Week 4 wildcarders.
Exactly. And basically start with little bit of learnings. Like now we have 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks is still short. Every week we discover something new. Like this week we discovered Ipswich is not so bad. So it's like every week brings us new information. So maybe it's time to sort of look back, talk about some teams and see where we are with our priors.
And shout out to our listeners. You guys have been very kind with the like and subscribes. Like we've been hitting 1,000 likes on every video, which is quite nice to see. And finally, the subscribe numbers are increasing at a healthy rate. So we appreciate the love. Pras has a pod coming, which with FPL Trout, which speaks about FPL analytics this week. I have a pod coming with Alon on next Monday. So, and we have our team selection videos. Office probably going to do a wildcard video as well. So we've got content going. We're not going to stop. So just make sure you have the notifications on and hit the like and subscribe button. We'd appreciate it.
Let's get started, guys. Sponsor plugs up first.
As always, all the data that you see on our podcast is from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. We might get access to the stats bomb images as well, which we'll start using in the pods. And the data is great. If you don't know what the data is about, you need to have a look at the videos that Zoph has done this Monday, which is just incredible, which gives you a great insight into what the data is about and how it's easy to absorb mountain of information in about 15 minutes time. So, if you want to become a member, click on the link in the description below. And if you click on the link in the description below, it helps us out as well. So we'd appreciate it.
So as you guys know, the NordVPN has been a long-term partner of the FPL Wire. If you're bored of the streaming libraries in your country, with NordVPN, you can access content outside your region, get access to a wider library on your favorite streaming services, and if you're traveling outside your country, you can access your home library content. Every purchase of the 2-year NordVPN plan using the link nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire will receive an additional 4 bonus months on top. TV show recommendations, guys. I actually have one this time, but I'll let you guys go first. LR?
I think you and I have the same TV show recommendation, just like our team. I'm gonna shout out IC814 on Netflix.
Dude, I also watched that. You took mine.
Yeah.
But anyway.
It's an Indian show which talks about the hijack that happened in '99 as well. I thought it was quite well made, enjoyed it, and finished it off in a couple of nights.
Yep, I saw that, and I also saw the Salim Javed show you recommended, The Angry Young Men, on Amazon. So somebody who's a fan of Bollywood, or even not just generally a fan of Indian cinema in general, is worth a watch. It talks about the golden age of Indian cinema, your Sholays and other movies around that time. Great watch. And I'm planning to rewatch Lord of the Rings over the international break. I haven't started season 2 yet. I'm going to rewatch season 1 and then get up to date with season 2. So that should be fun as well.
How's season 1? I haven't seen it. So if I'm watching, I'm watching
if
the
you're
whole
a Lord of the
together.
Rings fan, you like it. If you're not really into the whole thing, then it's not really something you'll get into.
All right.
Does it need prior knowledge?
Have you
Like
not
I,
seen
re-
you have not seen the Lord of the Rings movies, then you won't
of
enjoy
course
it.
I have, but I'm not like I know every single
Yeah,
character
you
kind
don't, you
of
don't have to
thing.
fanboy it.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
watchable otherwise also. Cool. Let's get started, guys. Well,
Let's
actually,
go.
no, the plug isn't complete, my bad. Node also has an efficient anti-malware and anti-spyware protection tool. It highlights any attack and deletes it before it makes a mess of your computer. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/the FPL Wire. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Sign up using the link in the description below. Right. Let's start, Pras, now with you sent me an excellent image from our friends
Yeah,
under the
Radar
radar.
FPL. Really,
Radar
really
FPL.
good image.
So let's talk about
Um,
talisman, because I touched upon this in my team selection video of using the Rob's percentages of goal involvement. Right now, this actually is the proof in the pudding. Those are predictions. This is what we've actually seen in the data. Why don't you walk us through it?
Yes, and firstly, I mean, I want to say I like this way of showing things because you're not only seeing the share of the pie, you're saying whose pie is bigger as well. So basically, for those listening and those looking at this chart for the first time, you have the teams and their expected goals plus assists in the first three games. So you see there Liverpool at the top, then Man City, Bournemouth, we'll talk about them, and then Manchester United, again, really good team. People shouldn't give up on them. So that's basically showing that there is a lot of XGI created between these teams. And at the bottom, some surprises like Crystal Palace, Wolves, maybe even Fulham. And what it's showing is the split within that for these players. So it gives you that talismanic view as well as a total potential view. So like you can get a talisman from Everton called Harrison, but you're not going to get many points. But you can get a Diaz from Liverpool, who even though he's not a talisman, can get you a lot of points, or a Jota. So I guess let's take it team by team, like what things stand out to us.
Obviously, Salah and Haaland's goal shares stand out. I think as premiums, that's what ultimately you want your premium to be absorbing all the XGI in the respective team, right? And we are seeing that. You look at Salah's there, Haaland's there, Palmer's there, Saka's right on top, and we haven't seen Foden yet. So you can't really account for that. I'm trying to find Sun. So Sun's up there as well. So the premiums are priced that way for a reason. You can see that.
Two things stand out to me in this chart. One is Trent, only defender on there. He's got more expected goals and assists than Soboslai. Like he's genuine attacker. How he doesn't have 2 or 3 returns already is a miracle, in my opinion. So for those that are on wildcard or are planning a Gameweek 6 wildcard, like that's one of the big takeaways where Trent is potentially, given how Liverpool are executing more control in the way they're playing, potentially a season holder. Like 7 million is a snip for what you're getting out of Trent. And the second takeaway from me is in the Arsenal chart, where you have Saka and Havertz sharing the expected data. And Havertz has been on it. And what this tells me is when you have a top 3 team in the league, Saka's correctly priced at 10 million. Havertz might be underpriced at 8 million, I reckon.
I'd agree with
Yeah.
the Havertz point.
Fair point. Fair point. I mean, I think it's also good to overlay a couple of macro points. So this season, again, 3-game sample caveat, but we knew before the season started that the refs had said there's going to be fewer pens this year. And that is now we can see. We've had 2 pens in 3-game weeks compared to like 12 or even 18 in one of the seasons, like 4 seasons ago by
Even
this
12
time.
from 30 sounds right, because effectively 30 matches, 12, that means effectively half the matches you're getting a penalty.
Exactly. So now it could be overcorrection where people said, okay, we'll have a high bar and then nobody's giving pens. Like I remember at least 2, 3 incidences this year where it could have been a pen, that dunk handball, like, you know, those ridiculous penalties that were coming last year where somebody just touched the ball, not even knowing where it is, just because his hand was, 1 centimeter away from his body. So I think we're not going to see that. So the pen factor, when you take it away, that makes it very interesting in terms of Saka versus Havertz. Now it's not a versus, you can get both. But in that case where you're trying to say, should I get Saka versus Palmer or Havertz versus Solanke, you can start to do these equations and say, maybe I'll get both for the good run and then switch one of them. And it could be that you switch Saka instead of Havertz. So I do think that is in the equation. I think one other thing is we should not also overcorrect for penalties like Bumos, Ezes. They're still good picks regardless. And I think what hasn't changed is set pieces, right? It's still the fact that Bumo's taking corners, Bumo's taking set pieces, Eze is taking corners, Eze is taking set pieces. Saka will still take corners from one side. So I think that element we shouldn't overcorrect as well.
Yeah, I think, I mean, when you mention that, I am remembering our friend Joe's s- what is it? What imminent goals imminent
Goals
table
imminent. Yeah.
from Fantasy Football Scout. I'd say I'd have number one as penalties at the moment. I just think there's a little bit of happenstance there as well. There's a lot of noise with data for 3 weeks, and I mean, I don't remember many instances which actually should have been pens that weren't given. And by nature of teams and performances, I think it will happen. I wouldn't read like you said too much into it. Pens are coming. They're due.
And the point on Trent, by the way, just take going a little bit team by team. Um, so I think with Liverpool, what I see is Diaz and Jota. There's not much in it, right? I mean, the guy, okay, Jota has scored points in the last two games. Diaz has scored points in the last two games. Jota has not in the last game. But center forward playing for Liverpool, I think as long as they both start, they're both good picks. And I don't think there is a clear, and we said this consistently, there's a clear winner. But I think
I don't
between
know.
Trent, you think Diaz is better.
Like when I'm watching, and I'm watching with tunnel vision because I have Jota, right? Like Diaz seems more involved. Genuinely seems more involved in the
But
play. I feel like the
this
system
is three
suits him.
games, and
It's three
like
games. It's 3 games.
we know
But
Jota for years on that he's a good finisher. We can't change our prior based on 3 games.
I'm not changing my price. I am just taking note that in the first 3 games, Diaz's looks slightly better to me.
It's
That's
also
all.
tactical. I
That's-
think against the Manchester United game, Slot mentioned that he was trying to feed the wide players immediately.
Yeah.
That's a weakness he was targeting. So again, a little bit of like recency bias is there, but I get the point you're making. There's also talk about how he's working with Diaz goal scoring on the training ground.
Like a good point would be the goal that Diaz scored, the second goal that he scored, not the header, but the second goal that Diaz scored, where Jota was standing on the far post. Diaz made the run beyond Jota to come to the near post. That indicates that Diaz is getting into goal scoring positions really, really quickly. He's not holding width. He's moving centrally. Like that's just something to take note of. I am worried about Diaz. I'm worried. Like I think now, if people were on a Game Week 4 wildcard, maybe Jota and Diaz are avoids. If you honestly ask me, because UCL is coming into picture. If I was wildcarding Game Week 4, I'd go Robo Trent and then more.
Absolutely.
Bec-
Absolutely.
because I'm worried about UCL. I'm worried about Champions League rotation, etc., coming into play. So I think the time to own them and get the points out of them was the first 3 weeks. But now I'm wary.
I mean, shout out to FPL Corf. He's done a little bit of analysis. Check out his Twitter, CORF, on all the set pieces that have happened so far. So Liverpool have had one direct free kick. Trent took it. Two indirect free kicks. Robertson took it. Corners, Robertson has taken 12, Trent has taken 8. It's like they're hogging all their, you're getting defenders in a great team that has improved defensively with attacking output and set pieces. So it's actually a no-brainer. Those are the three best picks in the team, despite how Diaz looks or Jota looks.
Yeah.
Is it
Agree.
too
I think
early
they're
to
the three
say?
best picks.
Is it too early to say Liverpool are title contenders? I don't think it's too early. I think they're generally going to be up there in the top three again. This transition
mean,
from slot from Klopp to slot has been quite seamless.
Like it's almost. Remember what Josh said on the pod, right? He said this was almost needed. It was almost like they were reaching the tail end of what they could do with Klopp, and he was calling out for more control towards the end of Klopp's era anyway. If you've been following Anfield Rock, and so he was, while everybody else was absolutely uh, hurt and in a bad state because Klopp had gone, this guy was actually optimistically looking forward to some more control in this team. So it's looked good. And you know what, the United game, there's been a lot of overreaction to that game. It tells me more about adjusting my price for Liverpool compared to United. Like my price for United is a team between 5th to 10th. And I think United continue and will finish somewhere between 5th to 10th. Not much has changed in terms of how I'm perceiving them to be. Whereas Liverpool, we were doubtful whether they would be with the first two as a pack or they would be between the third to sixth as a pack. And the early indications are they're definitely third. Don't know about first two. Like that's TBD because 3 Game Weeks is to judge, but the talent pool is there definitely third.
The top three are definitely in there, the contention. That's
Yeah.
what pretty much I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, you're muted. I
Plus-
can't hear you. I think I can't pick you up on Zoom at all.
No, okay. Sorry. I don't know how this
Yeah.
got turned on. So I was saying, I think that's good stuff on Liverpool, and I think Liverpool are a buy for anyone looking, and it's not a secret. Like people are getting Salah in, but I still maintain that Trent is a 15-pointer is coming, and whoever doesn't have Trent in the first 3 games has gotten a little bit lucky.
And that's with Trent sitting on 20 points. Like he should be on 35, 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that chance that the goal he scored against Man United isn't here, obviously, because that was
Yeah.
offside.
Ruled out. Yep.
So it's not here.
But I think
So,
you go ahead, Pras.
no, I was going to move on. So please complete your point.
I'll just complete because Liverpool are a big one now from a game week 4 wildcard, and that's our focus largely today. I think we're all unanimous. You go with Salah, obviously, that's the first pick. Trent the second, and the third one, I'm not sure necessarily I'd go Robertson. It all depends on the structure you're trying to maintain long term, right? If you're trying to transition that Robertson to an Arsenal defender, it makes a bit more sense. Because then if you want to move, let's say, a Diaz to a Bowen or a Boomo later on, that could be a good 2-week placeholder. I think so. That depends on what you're trying to do with that third slot.
Just given UCL, Robert's clear in my opinion. I'd be wary of Diaz's minutes and Jota's minutes around UCL.
I don't mind as a 2-week punt because you see the upside you would say for those 2 weeks, then you can move him on to a Boomo, something like that.
But I just, fair enough how you want to play that card. But I feel like when it comes to the midfielders, Boomo and Eze are sitting there as perfect placeholders, and I don't really want to move them around. Like if I was, this is loud thinking, if I was doing it, starting with Robbo and transitioning to an Arsenal defender in 6 is just too sweet a spot for me.
But you may only want one heavy hitter in defense, right? Like it's so team dependent. Like what do you want to go? So
yeah, I agree.
Where do you want to go? Like if you wanted a Trent pick forever and an Arsenal defender, then Trent Robbo, no brainer, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay,
but objectively, like other variables aside, all three of us on the same page that the two defenders plus. I just wanted to shout it out there. Is Konate a short shout at 5 million?
We discussed the similar reasons we discussed with Konsa, right? He wouldn't be in, like today if I have to pick 5 Liverpool players, Konate wouldn't be in the top 5.
Yeah. It's just I want to see what happens with UCL. Does he rotate the centre back? Like we don't have that use case.
He might have a clear preference. This guy plays in the UCL, this guy plays in the league. We don't know that yet.
Yeah.
Because I think Konate has struggled with 3 games a week in the past.
Exactly. But like let's say if he starts the next 2, then he's on my watch list. Just generally as a 5 million defender.
True. Let's move on to Man City.
There's so many good 5 million midfield defenders.
Are they actually 5 million bracket is a bit barren. We'll talk about that.
I mean, under 5.
Under 5,
yeah, under 5. Under 5, agree.
Yeah. Let's talk on Man City.
It's just that in our head, a perception of Liverpool clean sheets probably has gone up from like 12, 13, 14 at the start of the season to maybe more towards 16, 17, 18. Like that's how we are perceiving them. Upside case, yeah.
Right.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, what that has changed is I might look at Trent on a wildcard 6, which I would have never thought to do. But anyway, enough about Liverpool. Man City. I think Man City are a little bit difficult to call at the moment because Rodri hasn't played a game. Foden hasn't played a game or started a game. Walker hasn't started. Now you may argue he will never start. Rico Lewis is forever great. Or Stones hasn't started a game. So it's very difficult to... Because Rodri not starting could impact Rico Lewis, right? Because he needs somebody, an extra body in midfield so that he's inverting more and playing a little bit further forward because he doesn't have a DM like Rodri. So it can impact so much by just one change that I feel like other than Haaland looks great and, you know, he's a Nordic meat machine who's looking fresh, we have not learned much from Man City.
The question is, if you were on wildcard, would you put Rico in there?
I think it has a lot to do also with how leaky Man City's lineups are, right? If you get a league for Rico, like let's say almost every other week, let's say Man City play on a Saturday, we're going to get some sort of Rico Lewis league. And that appeals to me. And also, who is going to be a third Man City slot? We are likely going to go with Foden. We're going to likely go with Haaland. The third one is always going to be a defender, most likely, right? Because we're not going to be going with like a KDB or a Doku. It's very rare instances. So in that case, I think the upside is there. I think I would chance it.
Russ?
It just depends on your appetite for risk and ability to change teams. Like if your team has generally safe and you want to go with the upside, and if you're right, then you're ahead of everybody. But if you're wrong, you don't mind using a transfer. Let's say you're wildcarding in Gameweek 4 with 2 free transfers. Sure. I mean, I think you can take it because you're good getting a team for the next 3-4 weeks and carrying 2-3 transfers. That's, I think, a decent slot where you can make a punt. I definitely want to say it's a punt. Like I had a choice this week to get him. I still didn't think that I need to get him. Like I can wait.
Would you get him if you were on wildcard?
As a 5th defender, I think I don't mind that.
But 5th, no, people will have a 4 million defender.
4 million defender.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Even if you
like,
go with
the right strategy,
a 3 perma play, you even get him as a 4th, I don't mind. Because the 5th guy is going to be playing a Greaves, like for example.
If I was doing it, it'd be the third and fourth defender slot that I'd be looking at for Rico. And I'd make sure that if I was looking at Rico as my third defender, my fourth defender should be either nailed Brentford CB or nailed Villa CB. Like a low upside, but nailed 4.5 million defender that is going to be 100% cover just in case Rico doesn't play, because there are chances that he doesn't play. So you have a very solid cover. So I would follow that up. Like there needs to be some structure around how you're building your defense. So if you're doing Rico, follow that up with a Konsa or a Pau or a Pinnick. Like I like that, because why I mentioned Brentford and Aston Villa is because these two teams have a long list of fixtures where the clean sheets are good. So like I would structure my team accordingly so that you're balancing the risk. That's all.
You could do it. You could do it. But I'm just again playing devil's advocate. Like Walker is not going to international duty. This guy is. So
Sorry, I couldn't resist.
sorry, what was the comment? I didn't see it.
So people in the chat want to know your Instagram handle, plus not the FPL one, the personal one.
I'm not sharing that. I mean, what a detour. I mean, we're talking about Rico Lewis.
I couldn't resist.
They're both
Okay.
sexy things, yeah?
Yeah. So Rico Lewis I cannot recommend. You can do it as a punt. Like people go for punts, no worries. But you need to be prepared to use a transfer on him. Or fine, you can get lucky. But you're basically hoping to get lucky because everybody is coming back. Things will change. Guardiola could be a great pick again. Like we've forgotten, the guy was like breaking people's teams. Like he ruined my season. I didn't finish 10K because of Guardiola. Why are we not talking about him? Like once they get the width, Grealish starts playing again. He gets Rodri. Maybe, he changes the way he plays.
He does, but then
Like,
also
you know
you
what?
then have Ake, Wake, and all the other guys who start coming into the picture, right? Once UCL starts. That's the tricky part.
You know what my assessment is? A, he's 4.5 or 4.6, whatever his price is. I don't know if his reason. So he's cheap. Like he doesn't eat up a lot of cash. B, his upside is genuinely crazy. Like I don't feel like his upside is as good as Cancelo's was when he was playing for City. Like he should have had a goal or two so far in the first 3 game weeks. And see, when I'm looking at that squad, nobody in that City team has the skill set to do what he does. Genuinely. Like in terms of inverting, ball playing, dribbling, and playing that position. Like Guardiola did it, but Guardiola was almost like not a natural fit in that position.
Stones
He's
can.
almost
That's probably the only player I can say who can do that.
Yeah. Like so, like there are certain players like Jota Gameweek 1, right? Whose upside is worth it in my opinion. Rico fits that bill for me because that's all. But like I said, you want to play more balanced. So you can't have Rico into 4.2 million defenders. And if you're picking a 4.5 million defender, it needs to be a nailed guy. So balance that risk out.
And I'm saying all this in the context of the fact that a lot of people will be looking to do a lot of switching around in Game Week 6. Like people are going Arsenal-less on Wildcard 4, right? Because of course they have away Spurs and they have away Man City. You go Arsenal-less, you go Rico, and then by Game Week 6, when everybody has triple Arsenal and Rico is not nailed, suddenly your team doesn't look so nice. So again, I'll always be the conservative guy. Rico will be great value even for 5 million. So you don't have to get him for price rises.
Right, that's what I said. As a 4th or 5th, it makes complete sense. But again, as a 3rd, I don't like it.
Fair enough. So anything else? Like a lot of De Bruyne fans are coming around. Like
again, with Champions League and Foden coming in and all that stuff. Unlucky not to haul last game. We must say that. He's looked quite sharp. But again, the minutes in the long term seem a bit risky. And with the next 2 fixtures are what? I think it's Brentford at home and then Arsenal, right?
Yeah. Both home though. But yeah.
Both home. So
and did you see this Arsenal thing? Like the scheduling has been very unkind to Arsenal. Did you see this?
And the UCL thing, right?
Yeah.
I heard about it.
So they are going to Atlanta in Italy on Thursday because UCL is on Thursdays in the first couple of rounds. And then they go away to Manchester on Sunday. So away game on Thursday, they fly back, return to London Friday. Then they go to Manchester. Whereas Man City are home to, I think, Inter on Wednesday. Then they're home to Arsenal on Sunday. So they're chilling at home, going back, to their homes, putting their feet up. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, they prepare. I'm not saying it's going to be a thrashing, but I'm just saying a little unfair on Arsenal.
Anything else on Man City?
Nope,
I think
good.
We don't like any of these Doku, Savio and all these punts, right? None of the other midfield guys.
No, even KDB, I feel like Saka and Palmer are just better.
I'd agree. And you wait for Foden. Yeah. That's what I would agree.
And you wait for information if you're going KDB. Like, I don't think we have that information yet. Like did you read Pep's comment? He said preseason is now. So like what actually happens and what plans he has in mind, we'll find out in 4, 5, 6.
Yeah. Foden is likely to withdraw from England, so he won't get minutes there, but hopefully he'll get minutes and get back up to speed. I mean, he's been ill. So I think, yeah, Foden wildcard 6 could be an option. You'll see our draft.
It's like the second or third time he's had this stomach issue, right? He always keeps getting these stomach bugs. I wonder if it's something to like it's again the stomach illness. So I do wonder if it's something.
Move on to
Ex-tummy
Bournemouth.
bug. Bournemouth, you guys tell me. Like, they have impressed. Like, fixtures haven't been great. But again, when we show 5.5 midfielders some love, I will show my skepticism. So first, you show love.
So this is interesting. Now somebody pointed this out in the review video, and they were spot on. Bournemouth didn't really have a sniff in this match till the 85th minute. That's
Yeah.
game week 3. After that, Everton completely capitulated. They didn't make the substitutions, and Iraola said that this was the worst game they have played till now. So till the 85, they deserve to lose, but they are fortunate enough to win. So I really don't know how much to read into Bournemouth, but I do feel that Semenyo now is sort of emerging as their main man. I like that. But again, the fixtures are a bit mixed. I'm having a look over here now at Bournemouth. Now we have Chelsea, Liverpool. Then you have Southampton, Leicester, which is obviously fantastic. Then you have Arsenal, Villa, Man City, Brentford away. Very mixed bag of fixtures. I don't think in a game week 4 wildcard, I really like that.
I'm skeptical, and I don't know. LR has a face where he could be really high on Semenyo or down. So I'll let him speak first.
No, man, that game tells me that Salah's the best captaincy option in game week 5. Like Daesh was dashing, and tired players in the final 5 minutes led them to capitulate. But Everton with Keane playing and not a fully fit squad controlled the game against Bournemouth for 85 minutes. So a bit Jekyll and Hyde. Like you don't want to overreact because there are games that are off. They all mentioned that it was the worst game, but when Arsenal and City are playing each other, you want more in game week 5 versus Bournemouth as a captaincy option.
Yep, fair. I mean, I think Bournemouth attackers, I would again give people some skepticism. The problem is they have replaced Solanke with this dude called Ivan Nilsson, who has only played the first, I think in this game he played, what, 60 odd minutes? I can't remember his minutes.
Yes,
But anyway,
yes,
it was his
65
first start.
65 minutes.
So it was his first start. In the previous game, Semenyo was playing up top or rotating at least with Kluivert, with Sinistera. So Semenyo's numbers in an already short sample size are already beefed up by in a position where he'll not play going forward. So yes, Bournemouth good. We've said in the pod, Bournemouth are good. But this week's Messiah is Semenyo. Like last week's Messiah was Rodgers. Like, everyone looking for that cheapie to afford Haaland Salah drafts. Semenyo is the guy they're going to. I would be skeptical. I would say we don't know yet. Like, he could be great, but he could be the same Semenyo from last season because Bournemouth haven't changed much. Like, they're still integrating this new guy, and this new guy, from what we've seen in very limited period, is a Solanke replacement, similar player. So if you like last season's Semenyo, go for it. But don't think he's become like the new Solanke. No, he has not done that. Not yet.
Well put. Move on from Bournemouth.
Manchester United are fourth. When I made my comment that
if I speak,
United
I'm in big trouble.
Go on then,
You know it
LR.
was.
What do you want to say?
If you own Bruno, don't sell him before Southampton.
100%.
That's all. Like, I think it's a mistake selling anybody, whoever they play for. If it's Dwight McNeil you're talking about, don't sell them before playing Southampton because Southampton are gifting goals at the moment. Like, one thing I've learned, if there is a team to target so far this season, it probably feels like it's Southampton, given what they did against Forest and Brentford. Like, gifted 2 goals to Boomer. Genuinely gifted goals. So, early season hot take is that. Like, at the moment, Southampton are the team you want to play. That's all.
I would say the same thing to Adam Armstrong owners. The other team you're playing just gifted 2 goals. So
Absolutely.
get that in. But I've been looking at Garnacho as a 6.4 guy. He's interesting. What do you guys think?
I feel like I'd wait for our team to settle now. Like Ugarte is going to come in instead of Casemiro. And we don't know those starting guys. I think Holland is maybe a week or 2 away. Like, you don't want to be early for a team that has +1, +2 goal difference for the last 3 or 4 years. Like, you want us to get into gear, see something for 2-3 weeks before going there. So are we a buy? No. Is Bruno a hold? For Southampton, yes. That's my take.
I think
Like I said earlier, Like I said earlier on, I expect us to be between 5th to 10th. I still expect us to be between 5th to 10th. Not much has changed.
And actually, it's not the right thing to say after a humiliating loss to your rivals, but Man United have not started too bad. Like if you look at the way we are playing, the chances we're creating, it was mistakes that led to Liverpool's goal. And then once you're 2-0 down, then you lose your head. But what I'm saying is, I mean, the numbers are here. They're fourth in XG so far. It's not a bad. If you have a Bruno, keep him. And I think later on, people will come around to defense as well. Like Ugarte will start the first game.
Yeah, but from a realistic standpoint, though, there is something wrong with the coaching in terms of when you're watching United play. I feel like our players are too rushed in terms of wanting to break the lines, too rushed in challenging and going into tackles, which leaves open spaces. Like this is genuinely a problem with United at the moment as well. So, if somebody wants to punt on a Maz Rawi or something of that sort, I'm not confident right now. I feel like United are a monitor and stay away at the moment.
That's
Yep, agreed. There was a comment asking about Rashford. Keep anyone you have for one more week. Hold on.
Yeah, just Southampton. Give them the Southampton game. I feel like there could be regret, if you sell before a game like that.
Although Rashford to Mitoma would be very tempting, I reckon. Home to Ipswich, but still.
Yeah.
Nothing else on Man United.
It's almost like this is just making a slightly macro point. It's almost like if you're comparing two assets that you're not sure about, in a world in which now we can save up to 5 free transfers, you'd rather save than move. You know what I'm saying? Because you could make some other move later.
Yeah.
Like if this was
Go ahead.
saving up to 2 free transfers, okay, you'd press the accelerator. But if you can save up to 5, there's value in saving now. That this is a slightly macro point.
Yeah, and that's been interesting because we always used to take these 1 week punts before wildcard, right? Not that dynamic totally changes. Now the next 2 weeks, I'm thinking even I'm seeing small upside. Should I rather look to bank transfers? Because when I wildcard in game week 6, I want to have those couple of moves so I can take some short term punts during the wildcard, etc. So that is something new macro wise we need to factor in as well.
Agreed. Basically, dead end has become wildcard punts now. You can be a little bit more aggressive with your wildcard, and if it doesn't work, not the end of the world. Let's go through. I mean, we're not going to cover all 20 teams, obviously, but some interesting ones. So Brighton,
relevant, the big one for the wildcard 4 crowd.
Mitoma highest and Minte very good. So I think you guys were absolutely spot on in 5.5s. Like he's been the standout so far in terms of good team, good minutes, good numbers. Okay, I'm taking Semenyo out of the discussion because of the Van Nilsson equation. But if he keeps starting, then he's been good. And look at Pedro, man. He's like the 4th biggest XGI creator. Like he's creating nothing. He's been end of 2 chances and he scored those 2 goals and everybody wants to buy Pedro. But Mitoma, Minte, good picks.
Did you see the game?
Which one? The Arsenal one?
Game?
Of course.
Yeah.
They were not in it until the red card.
Arsenal were on top fully. Like I thought this was a Saka Kai haul there for the taking. Like genuinely thought it was the case. So how much you can take from this performance, we don't know. But you expect Brighton to do well just because of the people that play for them who will be on the pitch to do better against the next 2 teams.
And Pedro is an interesting one because in 3 games, he had a total of 3 shots in the box. But 2 of those, obviously, he scored goals from. Now, he's obviously a very popular pick. But again, the fixtures for Brighton are very interesting. Now, you see the next 2 are obviously Ipswich and Forest. But then from game week 4, you take a long view. For the next 8 game weeks, they're right at the bottom. Because after Ipswich and Forest is Chelsea, Tottenham, Newcastle away, Wolves at home is good. But again, Liverpool away, Man City. So that's a tough run after. So if you're getting Pedro, I guess you're pretty much looking to hide him. After Forest, maybe you play him for Tottenham. You don't want to play him for Newcastle away. Then he sort of becomes your 8th attacker. You rotate him maybe with a Bumo or a Rogers, something like that.
And a great first sub.
The idea.
A great first sub, pretty much because he's a penalty taker, right?
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, that's why I don't regret his points on the bench. Like, I don't care. Like, I will not be playing him every game. He's not a play every game player. You basically play him in good fixtures, hope he gets a pen, and if he scores in other games, fine, no worries. I mean, you have to, at least if you're playing 8 attackers, he's a good striker to do that. Like if you're spending 6.5, then you kind of feel like you have to play them every week.
That's another point I wanted to raise. Now, the draft I've built for Wildcard 4, I was thinking of moving him on to Vissa in a couple of game weeks. So in that structure, I don't mind him as a 7th, in which you're decided that he's going to become Vissa in 6. I'll double up because Boomer is going to be so popular and not going to pretty much gaining points from Brentford goals unless I think you have the double up. And we're digressing a little bit and jumping ahead, but you look at Vissa over there. In terms of XGI, he's actually ahead of Boomer. So I don't mind that get Pedro now, look to segue him to Visa in game week around 6 and use him as your 7th then. That you can afford like a super cheap E8.
I also think that Vissa XG is very high because of that goal he scored. Like I think it must be like a 0.8, 0.9. It was not possible to not score the goal that he did. Like the ball fell here and the line was here. Like if I remember correctly, the third goal that Brentford scored against Southampton as well. So just wanted to point that.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's
fair
true.
point. Yeah. Uh, yeah, man, Brighton are good. Pedro is good. One point I wanted to add is Hurstler's been waxing lyrical about Pedro in terms of talking about his off the ball movement and how he's great. And a good point is that Pedro is not going to be playing for Brazil in the international break. So he's going to be fully rested because Hurstler said that he's disappointed that he's not selected in the Brazil squad. So you're lacking the expected minutes for the next two.
Spot on.
I
People
saw
have been
Pedro in
asking in the
Brazil.
chat.
Go on.
People are asking Welbs or Pedro if you're picking one at the moment.
Obviously, Pedro.
Agree.
No
Go
double
on,
up in
Pras, you're
attack.
talking.
I don't think nothing in attack. I think besides, I think you only get one because the fixtures turn soon. But what about a defender? Kadioglu for somebody as a long-term pick. If I was go to wildcard in 6, I would definitely look to rotate a Brentford and a Brighton defender. But could you possibly jump ahead of, let's say, take a punt that Kadioglu is going to start right away after IB?
No.
Can't do
And
that.
he has a
by
slight
the way,
hamstring issue.
Exactly. I
Okay.
was
Oh,
going
I
to
didn't
say
know
he
that.
has a little bit of
Yeah.
an hamstring
Yeah.
issue. You wait. You have to wait. Like by the way, we have to remove the De Zerbi bias from Brighton. This Brighton team looks solid defensively. Like fine, like they struggled on the left. You're comparing with Arsenal, man. Don't compare any team playing against Arsenal. Like generally, he's got seasons of data of playing as a most solid team, a bit like Slot. Of course, we've not seen it because they've played not so easy games. They've Man United and Arsenal in the first two, or two of the first three. So I'm just saying, as a pedigree, he's a much more structured manager. So I'm expecting more clean sheets for Brighton. And one of my transfers is a Brighton defender, not Kadioglu. But I'm just backing what I have, what I know from historical perspective from this manager.
Also, Cardioglu, you have to also notice that S2 was back in the squad.
Yeah.
So we don't know who's going to be used where, etc. S2 could become an option when we're wildcarding game week 6. Somebody we are monitoring closely at the moment. So watch out for that as well.
Yep. I wouldn't be getting the defense again on a wild card because the fixtures turn quite soon. You get these two games, and then when will you again use him? You'll probably again use your Brighton defender, maybe game week 9. So the next 8 game weeks, you're looking to use them thrice. I'm not a fan of that. I'd rather get a Leaf Davis and just stick him in there for the longer run.
Fair, not a wildcard 4 pick.
Attacker, you don't mind because again, they can get goals, but again, those away games I don't like for clean sheets at all. Move on from Brighton.
Talk about your team, Chelsea.
Yeah, interested in your team. What do you have to say about that game?
So
Palace.
I was watching Palmer very closely with tunnel vision as somebody who's looking to bring Palmer in soon. First half and second half, his positioning was quite different. I don't know if it was tactical or the players, or maybe he got tired, strategical reasons, whatever. But first half also, I didn't see many touches in the box for Palmer. He was creating a lot, sort of a deep playmaker and a number 10, where I think he created 6 chances, but his XG that game was just 0.1. And I think he had 1 shot in the box or maybe even none. So if anything, the last game sort of downgraded Palmer in my eyes. And I have to ask now, is he worth around 10.5 million when we're getting so many better teams, better assets like your Saka and maybe even potentially Foden once we see what he's doing. Right now, I don't think Palmer is worth the 10.6. It's really what happened at Wolves that has sort of inflated, I think, his value a little bit amongst the community. I'm seeing a lot of drafts now that are trying to accommodate Salah, Haaland, Trent and Palmer. And it's just brutal.
Yeah, I don't like that.
It's just brutal. It doesn't make sense at all. Today, I would get Trent over Palmer, definitely in my premium equation. And just to squeeze that in as a fourth, when you're never really going to captain him over the other guys, he wouldn't be a pick for me on wildcard. I am interested in Madueke a lot more, though. After what I saw this game, he had 2 big chances, and these were very similar chances that he got against Wolves. Just this time, he didn't score that. I like Madueke's stock has gone up a little bit in my eyes. I don't mind him as a short-term punt at like 6.5, because that bracket is a bit weird. Besides your Brighton guys, who else would you go for at 6.5? Anybody else you like?
I mean,
no, but I do want to I want to talk about Palmer first, because yeah, he might have had a 0.1 XG, but he had a 0.7 XG, and like it's worth mentioning that XA is pretty superior. Like it's a pretty good amount. So he's clocked point 8 XGI in the last 2 games. And it's important conversation for people that are on wildcard at the moment, whether they should go for Palmer or not. Because I feel like the moment to go for Palmer is probably now, because you've got two decentish, but not easy away games against Bournemouth and
West Ham.
West Ham. But then you've got two good home games against Brighton and Forest. So you're getting a decent run of four for a pick like Palmer at the moment, who is on pens at the moment. So, like, I don't think you can rule him out. I think he's a decent pick if you're wildcarding in four, because you're getting a slate of four that you want to. The thing is, I definitely prefer Saka in game week 6 if I was wildcarding then, because he's got a better two. So you have to think whether you're going to switch to Saka, or how you're going to accommodate both, or which big hitters are you going to go with, or you can go with double ask. Like that's which other pieces of the puzzle are you moving? But Palmer's definitely a pick for me. I don't think my perception hasn't gone down with
Right, I
regards to
guess
Palmer.
it's still a good pick in isolation, but everything becomes relative compared to who you want right now. Because if you're wildcarding right now, you want your Haaland, you want your Salah. Now, if you're wildcarding in 6, you could potentially go without Salah. You could go, let's say, with a Saka and a Palmer, or a Saka and a Foden in that situation.
You're wildcarding now, you go with Haaland for sure?
I think so. I don't think, I mean, it's very, very difficult to say no after the back of 2 hat-tricks. And now he's playing Brentford at home, and Brentford are not tight. They conceded 1.5 XG to Southampton at home. And even against Arsenal, the game is at home. It's not an away game at the Emirates. So there's no way I can suggest going without Haaland.
Ras?
Look, I think we all know we don't need to say what Haaland is, right? But the only evidence is people without Haaland are doing fine. Now, is it because Salah has overperformed or Haaland has overperformed? You can argue that all day on Twitter. But the point is that if you're going for, so we've just said that we don't like a Haaland, Salah, and Palmer structure. They are the 3 most expensive players in the game, in fact. So if then you are really high on Palmer, you can go for a Salah, Palmer, Saka structure and get maybe a Watkins and Pedro, and who's the other striker people are getting on Wildcard. But anyway, we can talk about that structure. But I don't think it's the worst idea. But I can't do it. But there are other people who can do it. The thing is, Haaland isn't the best captain in Game Week 6. He's not the best captain in Game Week 5. So
Exactly.
if you wanted to go against him for 3-4 weeks, up to you, man. I mean, it's about your risk appetite. But I'm not going to say never do it. Don't do it. It's stupid not to have Haaland. We know what Haaland is, but he's priced that way.
I guess if you have some transfers to bring him back in around 7, like let's say if you have 3 transfers banked and you're wildcarding with that, then it makes a lot more sense, because then you can make, because you will likely need at least 2 or 3 transfers to bring Haaland back.
Like Salah, Watkins have good fixtures till 7, and then you can reverse the move. So it's not like completely unfathomable.
The thing with Watkins though is like the reliability of Watkins has gone down considerably. Like that's the factor with Watkins. The minutes, until he's banging, you're wary about Aston Villa. We'll get there. But the point about why I asked you that question is, Zoph, exactly, people need to like constantly be on top of their captaincy matrices. And like whatever you do, if you're, I wouldn't do it. I'm with you guys. I wouldn't go without Haaland. I'd start with him and I'd keep him and I'd figure out what I can do elsewhere. But if you're not getting Haaland, you should 100% have a plan for him to get him in place in Game Week 7, no matter what. Like that's how strongly I feel about it.
Game Week 9 home to Southampton, man.
Like, as in, get him back in your team Game Week 7, no matter what.
That's what I mean. Like you don't want to miss out on that. For all the things we're saying, we saw what he did to Ipswich. You want to get him by 7. This I agree with.
Yeah, that's all.
And there is a route. Salah, Watkins out. Or Salah, Isak out. Like whoever you don't like. 2 guys can make way. You can roll transfers. Like you can be aggressive on wildcard, saving 2-3 transfers, 4 transfers, and then getting Haaland out, getting Haaland, and you enjoy points from Palmer where everybody can't afford a Palmer. So it's doable.
Even Jackson, I like him now that we haven't signed a centre forward. And we just gave him a contract. I couldn't believe it till 2033. It's ridiculous. But it is what it is. I don't mind Jackson as a pick now.
Cool.
Never thought we'd hear that. Yeah, let's move to Villa. So Watkins,
We covered Watkins. I think we've covered Watkins, right? Ultimately, but do you think you would still prioritize him now, LR? I don't think we can with all the other guys.
I wouldn't. And that's not just because of Watkins. That's also because of Villa. Like they genuinely have a winger problem at the moment with Leon Bailey injured. Like who's going to bring the width? And without Lewis, without Diaby, without Bailey now, that was the center hold of their attack last year. Like when Villa was strong and purring, like they might struggle to force feel like a starting 11 in the league and then in midweek in the UCL also. Like I'm a little worried about Villa in the sense that how much will they like they haven't convinced fully just yet. So I mean the fixtures are there and you say that fixtures breed form, but like I'm not fully
Yeah,
there
Bailey
with
is also a miss.
Bailey's a huge miss. Like where is the width? Philogene is injured. Who's going to play wide at the moment?
Oh, I didn't know
Like
Philogene
they've
is injured.
so I mean they have three guys who are pretty much centralish. I'm talking about like Rogers, Ramsey, Duran, Watkins. All of these are like centralish players. Like there's no genuine wide player for Aston Villa, and they needed somebody to play in that Diaby Bailey role. They just don't have that player at the moment. So
Even Rogers' positioning suffered when Bailey went off, and I think we need to spend some time talking on Rogers. Now, should people build around him as a seventh or an eighth? That's a big question, right? You have to ask, because if you build around him as a seventh, if something does go wrong, you're screwed. There's really nowhere you can move around to, right? I think Prust, you're clear, needs to be an eighth.
Definitely. That's my draft. Like Rogers and Pedro was the plan so that I save transfers. If one of them turns out to be a dud, you can still maybe semi rely on the other and then you wildcard. When you're coming out of wildcard, like wildcarding and then going out, your team is now there for 20 weeks. So you have to play a little bit. I wouldn't like rely on only Rogers or even only Semenyo. Like you need to have some kind of thought behind a squad. Doesn't need to be a perfect rotation, but you need, I think the days of a dead bench, like is tough. Like if you have a 4.5 midfielder and Rogers, you have only three good midfielders. You're missing out on so much.
I'm with you. Needs to be an eighth. Like the
I agree.
only people who I think might be looking to cram him as a seventh are the people who are maybe looking to fit in Haaland, Salah, Palmer, and Trent in their team. Like those are the kind of guys who will be making tons of sacrifices around the edges, and I just don't know if it's worth it at the moment. Especially because we have Eze and Boomer as two very strong 7 million mids who are just offering that balance that you want,
You
Absolutely.
can match any premium on their day.
Yeah.
Right. Forest, we
Absolutely.
can let's skip Forest. I think they're not really
Let's
a
skip
relevant team
Forest.
right now.
Brentford, I think we've talked about Visa and Bumo. I think those two are picks, and I would even go there if you're wildcarding now. You guys?
Yes, definitely. I think Boomo, you
Yeah.
just plan to bench him and rotate him with Pedro over the next couple of weeks, because you don't want to book a transfer for Boomo. You need to prioritize your Arsenal for
Enjoy
6.
some price rises. Get him in now. Visa is more of a discussion. It's not because
And
he's a
Bumo's a
bad pick.
good pick against Spurs. Make no
Yeah.
mistake. You don't mind him against Spurs at all.
Agreed. And some people are playing him against City. Sure. I mean, City gave up like Kudus absolutely tore one for City. For I'm not saying like Boom was a different player to Kudus, but City were open. Like Kudus could have had a couple of goals. So I don't think it's the worst. So I guess no brainer. We all agree. Get Boom on wildcard 4. No issues. Don't worry about the next two because everybody will have them. So save one committed transfer. I think Pedro to Visa also is a good idea. So if you can commit to that transfer, the
The,
problem
the
only is
Brentford run is just brilliant. Let's go and highlight this now. Look at from game week 6 Brentford Johns. West Ham, Wolves, Manchester United, Ipswich, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, Leicester. You're comfortable playing double attack in all of these games.
fair enough. Fair enough. I'm just talking about transfer pressure.
Right.
Those two Arsenal games, you cannot miss out. Your wildcard
Right.
4
That's why
has
you
to
need to
think
get
about
like a
those two
Rhea
Arsenal
and a
games.
Havertz now. Then the draft you see I've made, I already got the two Arsenals. So the one guy you have to get in is probably Salah to Saka. It all
That's
depends
fair.
on how many guys you're booking in.
Yeah. You have to get triple Arsenal. Home to two promoted teams. Those are 4-0, 3-0 games. So then at that point, you'll be like, I'm not transferring Visa right now. Like, I'll deal with the Arsenal guys. So yeah, you need to have a plan. But I like that sort of transition.
Skip Spurs. Anything to touch upon?
I do want to talk about just the Spurs Newcastle game because I think Newcastle were fairly relevant. And a lot of people are jumping the gun on Gordon and Isak. So I thought it's worth mentioning. Where I feel like a couple of things that will change with Newcastle now is that Tonali will and should start the next game, and he's an upgrade. And like I think after 4, the no European factor will come into play. Where if Newcastle are playing in Game Week 5, other teams will have not played. Other teams will have played European games in between. Newcastle will not, and I think that benefits of that will start showing now. So people are jumping the gun when Newcastle are playing a Wolves and a Fulham who aren't the best defensively. And I do think that you take that home away record with a little bit of a pinch of salt. Like, I think Newcastle's biggest problem I mentioned in the last two podcasts are the lack of Trippier. He was their ball progression outlet. But while watching the game, yes, Spurs dominated the ball and Spurs had a ton of chances. But if you look at that shot map, a ton of Spurs chances were from outside the box. They lacked a little bit of cutting edge inside the box. Like I felt like they missed Solanke. And while watching the game, I was like, yeah, I mean, a Newcastle goal on the counter is just there for the taking because whenever when Spurs do concede chances, they concede big chances, which is why, you think about selling Saka with a pinch of salt. Saka, by the way, in the last year, scored his highest number of FPL points against Spurs as an opposition. I know, Zoph, you and I have transferred Saka out, but he scored his highest points against Spurs. So just wanted to mention that, where Spurs and Poro, by the way, 6 shots looks great as a pick, but clean sheets just won't come in abundance. That's all. And be patient with your Gordons and Isaks. Like Isak had no shots to show for it. Gordon had no shots to show for it, but it's worth pointing out that there's no trips now. So Gordon's on set pieces. He's got an extra outlet,
Very
2
good
points
point.
now. And the second thing is he could have easily had 2 assists in the game. Like he passed one to Murphy, who could have put it inside the goal, and I think there was another chance to Barnes, who just missed the outside post as well. So, like, it's one of those picks where, uh, people are doing Gordon to Eze or something like that. It's a fine transfer for free, but I'm not sure if I would make the transfer for a hit because I don't think it's 100% locked in payoff transfer. Gordon could get points.
I'd agree. And
Yep.
Wolves didn't look much better. Even though they conceded only 1 goal, it was still quite open. I think at home
Yeah.
again, they will go for it a little bit.
They changed their formation. Like Ed Nuri was playing as a winger, not a defender. I mean, they need to do that. They can't do that. Play him as a defender at the moment.
There's a problem with that is early. We get excited, out of position, but he gets subbed early now. He got subbed at the 59th
Yes.
minute last game.
And they've got a lot of attackers at the moment.
Yeah,
so,
Wang was benched.
agree.
So he got subbed off
Yeah.
for Wang. So I don't think Nuri you can really go there. But Arsenal, I think, are relevant we need to talk about now. Which 1 or 2 assets would you get to prepare yourself for that game week 6 swing? I'm seeing Raya is obviously quite popular. And I guess you go with there and you just take the points, whatever you get in the next 2 on the chin. Even though they're not great for clean sheet. I like that. But plus, where are you on Raya versus
They're good.
Gabriel? Go ahead.
They're good Raya fixtures.
Yeah, for safe points,
Like-
right?
Yeah, and he could. Arsenal are good for a clean sheet any game, right? So you don't mind that kind of a game where he could clinch
Big points, like a 10-pointer.
big points. Yeah.
Plus,
Yeah,
where are you
could
on
do that.
Raya
Or
versus
you can-
Gabriel? Tell me
Or
that.
you play Gabriel. I mean, I don't have a view yet. It depends on team structure. Like people will prioritize probably a Trent and a Robertson for the next 2 weeks. So you could look to do a transfer and get that Arsenal defender there. So that could be one approach. That's why I don't love Raya because your Arsenal 3 are blocked. Like you cannot get an Arsenal triple up from an outfield. Like, against these 3 fixtures, let's say there's an injury to Trossard and you get Martinelli for just 2 weeks. Like you're missing out on these upside moves if you get a keeper from, one of the best teams in the league. He could be fine, but I'm still in the Flecken or Areola camp. I think Wildcard 6. So I do favor a defender, but I see the arguments. That you guys
It's
are making.
also money
that you just
saving
get
there,
that.
right? Because 0.5 million goes a long way.
Fair enough.
But
But for me, that Arsenal defender doesn't leave the team till game week 38. Like
Right.
that's my approach. Once he comes in game week 6, that's it.
agree. Because the fixtures, they have a couple of tough fixtures right after. I think the Southampton, the 3 good games, but then again, the fixture and after that improves.
Absolutely.
I remember Pruss actually. This is the post-mortem that we did. Pruss had the most points from Arsenal defense, much more significantly than both of us also.
Yes, because he doubled up
Pruss
very
has,
early.
he has this.
I had a double
quantity.
from game week 12 till the end.
Yeah.
Havertz, I like him
This
to include on this
Havertz
wildcard.
has put his hand up.
Hmm.
Like it feels like game week 6, right? We'll talk about that wild card. If those 2 home games are so good that if you go 2 defenders, you're leaving points on the table
Yeah.
because your 2 defenders will give you 6. Like
You're
you're
a
not,
legit
you can't
centre
hope for
forward
a
option now.
bullet
We
header.
didn't have that last season, right? With Jesus was
Exactly.
quite flaky, and Havertz some games he was playing centre forward, some games 8. I think you
So-
get Kai now. I like Kai as a pick on a game week 4 wildcard because the Spurs game you see goals. Man City, okay, maybe not, but he's going to be the main threat on the counter.
No,
Yeah, and
no issue from Champions League. Not out of like he'll still start, but that Arteta keeps tinkering this. Sometimes he plays in the eight, sometimes he plays up top.
no issues.
I think this is his best role now. The team is built to feed him.
Just generally, he's hogging the XG, and it's now half a season and 3 games of data.
Fair enough. All right. So we've talked about Arsenal, Newcastle. We've talked about. I don't think there's anybody else.
Southampton, I think we can skip. Let's talk about Fulham a little
Fulham,
bit,
let's
because
do
I'm
it.
seeing ESR and Robinson are quite popular amongst the Game Week 4 wildcard crowd. I don't mind that, but you do have to keep in mind Fulham's fixtures turn quite soon. Now look at the Game Week 6 ticker over here. Now Fulham, they have Forest, which is all right. Then it's City, Villa, Everton away, Brentford home, Palace away, Wolves. It's not that bad. I guess you could hold Robinson and plan to rotate him. What is your thoughts, Press? Because I'm not that convinced on ESR yet.
I'm not convinced even now. He's on my bench, Game Week 4. So this is the worry. Like, I think we need to have a conversation with the listeners in terms of expectations of 5 to 5.5 million players. Like, 1 goal in 3 is fantastic. Like, that's great for a 5.5 million player. That's what you get when you have a premium heavy draft. You will have to have weeks where you'll start to question, is Rodgers actually good? Is Semenyo actually good? Is ESR actually good? Because actually Fulham is not so good. Like, they've had great fixtures, still they're bottom 5 for XG created. So within that, you're saying ESR needs to do well. I mean, come on. So it's the same thing for Muniz to an extent, but I like ESR is a okay pick. If you need to play him next 2 games, fine. But definitely not a player you plan to play every single week, or plan even to play 70-80% of the weeks. He's an okay pick.
You just get Minte then, right? If you're going to look at someone for the short term at 5.5, why not go Minte instead?
Yeah, can do that.
The ceiling feels much
It's just-
higher there.
I just feel like the larger point is for the 1.5 million that you're spending to upgrade an ESR/Minte to an Eze/Bumo, it's worth more than 1.5 million in my eyes when you're structuring your team, etc. You're just getting a lot more bang for buck in terms of sustainability, non-usage of transfers, long-term hold with these picks compared to the 5.5. They're flaky. Price is on point.
Right, but the combination matters, right? You're talking about a Gabriel and a ESR versus a Leaf Davis and an Eze.
I prefer Leaf Davis as an Eze. Like genuinely, I think like it's the bang for buck in terms of incremental value of money spent is there, in my opinion.
Fair shot. Let's talk about Eze. There's another player I'm not seeing in many wildcard 4 drafts, and he's the one player I'm the most afraid of not owning the next 2 game weeks. The 2 home fixtures against Leicester and Manchester United, I think Eze has huge haul potential. I would like to include him because I think he's a good hold even after that.
Agree.
He's in my wildcard 6 draft. So definitely I would recommend get Bumo, Eze. Don't worry about those 2 picks. Don't worry about wildcard 6ers if they're not going for them. You enjoy. And then use your transfers with your heavy hitters to get your Arsenals. That should be the play. Not like trying to get clever with Semenyo instead of Eze or whatever.
No.
I genuinely think that should be the play.
I mean, we've been speaking about glue guys on this podcast. Best 2 glue guys in the game at the moment, outside of Trent, are Eze and Bumo.
Yeah. Set pieces, penalties, goals.
Minutes.
The last one I want to touch upon, Ipswich Town. I think Leaf Davis I like, and I don't even mind a double up as a 4.2. I'm not seeing anyone better than Greaves at the moment. Anybody else catch your eye?
Yeah, the Brentford dude. The chat is all gung-ho about it. He's in my draft as
but
well.
you have 3 legit options from Brentford. I don't even know, because ultimately Brentford on these easier games, are they going to be playing a back 3? Don't you think your Pinnock and Collins are significantly higher in the pecking order?
But that's okay. Like you don't need to safeguard a spot if there's a 4.2 million defender offering insane value.
Yeah, but we don't know
as
when
a
we start.
placer.
You have to go a bit blind now, right? On a game week 4
You have to go a
wildcard.
bit blind. Yeah.
But there are, it's an important point that Zoph makes, because you have Flecken, Visa, and Bumo as 3 options,
3
legit
good
options people can get on wildcard. So when you're going for one of those, you're locking yourself out of the other. Now, locking yourself out of Visa sounds a little bit odd, but you never know. Like we just, Tony-less Brentford. So it is something to give a thought. So I would say wildcard 4, don't go there. You're just taking a punt for no reason. Just take the
Or do your
Ipswich guy.
research. Like speak to some Brentford fans, visit the forums. That's what I
But
would
like
do.
FPL Dummy Tom, the guy, the correspondent for Planet FPL, he thinks he will get the place for Collins. But Newcastle fans thought Hall will start every game. Like we can't, whatever research you do, you are still taking a risk.
Yeah, and we've learned this year that the proof is in the pudding. Like let that happen, then make the move. And before that, it's just a risk. In a game where you can save up to 5 free transfers, don't take
Yeah,
that
and
risk.
Ipswich fixtures are fantastic, man. So any of the game you want Greaves to come off the bench, it's not a bad play.
Agreed. I mean,
Plus,
Ipswich TBC defense. But yeah, this is just to wrap it up. I think this is a chart from 11ify. I think what this shows is, and we're not going to spend too much time on this one because we should go to wildcard drafts, but it's actually a nice chart to reconcile your eye test with what the models are doing. So the models are basically have seen the first 3 games and said, where have I calibrated the most? So just a couple of highlights. Brighton has increased the most in terms of, so they are doing much better than people thought. Liverpool is up there in terms of increasing a lot. So those are the 2 top increases. Forest much better. Now those are could be fixture driven, but those are the 3 big guys that have moved up. In terms of moving back, I was surprised to see Everton. I think that's not a surprise. Arsenal are second. Now whether that is driven by the red card, but you can also argue against Villa. They were lucky to not concede, and so it's been a little bit of a, you expected a better start from Arsenal. And what else stands out? Ipswich, actually, from an underlying
Newcastle.
perspective, and Newcastle. So I think not unless you guys want to add anything,
no,
just something to
Newcastle
keep in
down.
mind.
Brighton has gone massively up, 0.09. I think they're the biggest gainers you see
They're the
over here.
highest. They're the highest.
So again, I think the FTR ratings we are looking at a bit weighted for the performances for last season. Let's say Brighton having Tottenham at home is not necessarily a bad fixture for Brighton.
Correct.
Cool.
This is why Minte, João Pedro, if they keep getting minutes, like for 5.5, it's ridiculous value.
I'm surprised Bournemouth
I'm
also
not
have
sure.
gone up.
I'll just say it. I said it last pod. I'll say it this pod also because the red card does weigh. Like I want to see more from Brighton.
That's
Fair.
fair.
Like I said, their start has been tough. Still, they have done well.
But also, like, the data points are quite noisy with Brighton. But I do expect them to win their next 2 games. And I think that will give us a clearer indication of where they are because the players are so good. Pedro, Minte, and Mitoma, just by nature of who they are as players, is great.
Move on to wildcard
Alright.
drafts. Before that, let's
Let's
do
do it.
our sleeper plug. Let's tell people about the draft that we did yesterday.
Well, there's a few announcements actually on Sleeper. So first, let's talk about the Pick'em League.
Yes.
We have finished August.
Of course, Press wants to talk about that.
I mean, 3 people won a jersey, and let's see who they are. So look, I'm just going to shout out their names real quick so that people know, and I need to bring it up. So sorry, guys, give me
No
a second.
problem. So yeah,
Number 1, Prasoon Singhal.
Number 1, Pras. I got 21 picks correct. Number 2 is Tejas Narayan. He also wins a Premier League jersey, and Goodfella is number 3. Both had 20 good picks, and so basically they got 20 right out of the 3 game week. So 20 good results out of 3.
66% is a solid rate.
66%. But if you think you can beat it, you should join our Discord, and you can join the league. There is also a full bigger league where basically anyone can join. You don't have to be a Discord member. And the winner for that is Lewis Redison, and he got 23 or 24 correct. So that was very, very impressive. We've reached out to him as well for his price. 24 he got correct out of 30. So that's mighty impressive, 80%. So that's that. So you can join. It's not too late because if you join us, you keep getting monthly winners. So
And this is the week to join. So like if you want to increase the odds of winning a Premier League kit, you become a member on YouTube or become a member on Discord, you get access to content that Zoph has been doing on Monday, which is now going to be just for Patreon and YouTube members. You get access to our Discord, you get access to a Q&A session that we do every Thursday, and you get a chance. Top 3 from the Sleeper Discord League win a Premier League kit every month. So this is the week to join because the new month starts, the cycle starts now.
I have ordered my Man United 3rd kit already, by the way. It's beautiful.
So did I. It's beautiful.
You'd have waited to win, man. I mean, but anyway. So that's on the Pick'em League. So join us. The link will be in the description. And as LR said, if you want to join the Discord League, then you need to be a Patreon on patreon.com/the FPL Wire or a YouTube member. And then there is the draft. So we had a content creators draft yesterday. And of course, if anyone can do a draft, I enjoyed it, man. I mean, we have a Wire League. We have a Wire team. So the 3 of us had to basically make some very important decisions within a minute. And honestly, I really enjoyed it because our way of thinking really came about. Like we've ended up with some very me picks, very LR picks, and very Zoph picks, I feel, like in a draft.
Yeah.
How was the experience?
Yeah. It was great, man. Like the large strategy that we went in was that I need to curb my instincts for the first 4 or 5 picks, where I don't have any veto power over Zoff and Pras, so that we get the base of our team strong. And because there's in-game management possible in the draft, we came to a conclusion that there is upside in picking X minutes risk players with deeper scores, like so picking your Joao Felixes, etc. It's worth getting them between pick 5 and 10, because there is upside, because you get to see if they're starting, and then you can put them in your team. And if they're not starting, you don't need to put them in a team. We had to build a team of 11 out of a squad of 17. So we enjoy the strategy bit. We're looking forward to the draft that we're doing with a couple of a couple of drafts that we're doing with the Discord members as well. And I genuinely think you guys, I think International Break One is the best time to do a draft. It's a very easy platform to do a draft on. Get playing with your friends, family, rivals, etc. Get 10 of them. If it's difficult to find like an hour or 2 hour time period, we finished our draft, 10 teams, 17 picks in 90 minutes, and we put like a 1 minute clock on that. You can even, like the Knox and Niggles drafts that I used to do back in the day, we used to play during the full international break, where you get time to deeper search your picks, etc. So you can even put like an 8 hour clock or a 6 hour clock on that, so that the draft goes on. And there's if there's a group chat or a WhatsApp chat on, that you've got that draft covered for the 2 week IB boredom period, because this is Tuesday. You guys have 10 days of nothing else to do now. So this is something that helps kill the time as well. I really recommend it.
Very excited about some of our picks.
Yes, and those will be revealed in due course. But I also, just last word on this, you can change the rules, right? So we've changed the points to very similar to FPL points. You can change the time you take for the draft. You can change this aspect of, you can either make changes right until the kickoff. So in our case, we are changing until the kickoff, which is why we've gone for some X-Mins picks, where if they don't start, we put them on the bench. Or you can change it to just locked in by deadline. So lots of things you can play around with. So we'd encourage people to check it out.
And one thing, you will need a commissioner. So one of the X number of people playing should also be a commissioner. The guy needs to be slightly more plus than me, in terms of he just needs to be a fair guy that is level-headed, etc. as well, to sort of just make sure that the rules are there. If somebody's having a bad connection, you can pause the draft, etc. as well. So, all of that needs to be done.
All right.
Wildcard drafts.
Let's do it.
So this is one I made for Wildcard 4. I'll just read it out for you guys. I've got Rhea in goal, Leaf Davis, Robinson, me, Trent. Me can be Pinnock, obviously. Greaves, Rogers, Eze, Bumo, Salah, Smith-Rowe, Pedro, Haaland, Havertz. So how do you like this, Pras?
Don't like the no third Liverpool. But I think the midfield is solid.
You could go short term. You could go for a Diaz over one of these guys, Eze, Bumo, move them in, something like that.
Could do that. I mean, I like the structure. I like not jamming in Palmer. And you can see when you don't have Palmer, what you can do. And why in this structure, it's also what you've done is you can go straight Salah to Saka, and then you're not too far behind in terms of the Arsenal to juicy
Right.
fixtures.
You're pretty much a third. Yeah, that's all you need. You need one more Arsenal guy, and then that's going to free up some money as well. Then you can maybe get a Foden in for like somebody else.
Exactly. Or you can upgrade one other defender to Gabriel, or if anyone you want. So I think that's doable. So I think this draft is, I would categorize more as a safer draft, where you're actually looking at the Game Week 6 wildcard and saying, I don't want to fall too far behind, but you are leaving some points on the table in Game Week 5 and 6.
I completely agree. You're not looking at it short term, and this is my problem always with wildcards.
Like structurally, what I would immediately do is go Raya down to a 4.5 and upgrade a 4.5 million defender to Robo. You need 0.5 million from somewhere else in the draft, and that's it. You're already capitalizing on the fixtures by getting an optimal triple Liverpool, in my opinion, for the next two as well.
Good shot.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And for people that want to go Palmer also, I don't mind it. Like it's about your risk reward threshold, right? Like, for a fact that if you're comfortable captaining Salah for the next two, and you're comfortable you're not going to captain Haaland for 5 and 6. So if you're comfortable rolling that dice and then having a plan for 7 in place, that's something you can think of. It's not something I would do, given the form that Haaland has shown. It's not something I would do, but that's an option for you. And just in terms of variability, that's all.
I mean, look at it this way: Haaland, Smith-Rowe, and Leaf Davis could become Robertson, Palmer, and Watkins. That's the power of no Haaland. But
Yeah.
the power of no Haaland is also that you are behind a sofa when he plays, and he does punish you a lot. So really depends how you want to play this. It's
Shout out
not
to
wrong.
Walsh, FML FPL, went on a wildcard game week 3. No Haaland, 96 points.
Who did he captain? Boomo?
Boomo. Like his basic thing is that has a plan for Haaland in game week 7. The planning and the captaincy matrix is just huge in the money, right? Because it is a question to ask whether is Haaland worth keeping in your team if you're not captaining. Like captaincy is huge in all of this.
It is.
I mean, people saying double Ipswich defense or whatever, I think you need to focus on the structure, what we're talking about, which is basically in this structure, you have a premium keeper and a premium defender and 3 rotating 4.5s. You can choose Konza, Dunk, you can choose whoever you want, whoever you like. So that's not the point. 5.6 could be Semenyo if you don't like Smith Rowe. That's not the point. The point here is no Palmer, and the point here is Trent, and no other premium defender. I think that's what people need to focus on.
General tips for wildcarders at the moment, like large top of the head mistakes to avoid.
Russ?
Rodgers as a 7th attacker is a mistake to avoid. Agree with that. Have a slightly deeper squad is something we would say. I would say build
Arsenal
a game.
also going 0 Arsenal just because they have the City game coming up. You will want triple Arsenal very soon.
The only way I wouldn't go triple Arsenal, the only way that's worth it is if you're wildcarding this week and you have 3 free transfers loaded up already. Like in a world where that is a case where you want to just shift a huge bulk of Liverpool to Arsenal, that sort of makes sense. So you need to strategize in terms of how you're doing something like that, right? So how many free transfers you have in hand is also a conversation to have, in my opinion. I would go triple Liverpool for sure. Like you have to get the points on the table. We realized that with the first 3 game weeks as well. You can't plan too much. And Liverpool, like it's like, let's say you have other fires in the team. Having Liverpool players in your team just like that also isn't a problem. They are still the top 3 team in the league. Like they play every week irrespective. It doesn't matter that much.
Right. I wanted to also benchmark this now to see the trade-off as it like, why somebody who's not wildcarding should look at what you're gaining versus in game week 6. This is something Pras and I both prepared game week 6 wildcard teams. We just shared a few differences. This one in wildcard 6, you'd obviously go Flecken in goal. Gabriel, Davis, the same Ipswich guys. I chucked in Lewis there as well. Can be any 4.5. Trent, Rodgers, Saka, Boomo. Foden, I think, is going to be a big one, obviously, for your game week 6 wildcarders. Now, I don't like this draft because I've gone for like Rodgers as a 7th. It's not that great. Havertz, Haaland, and Wissa. I'd probably need to shave some money off over here. But in general, Pras, tell me what's the main differences between a wildcard 4 and a 6? What is the trade-off?
I mean, the first is that you are able to attack a little bit 4 and 5, right? So we are not worried having triple Liverpool and having no Arsenal. Like when I say we, people who are not wildcarding this week. So they are not caring. They can get their Arsenal later. So that's the first benefit. So it's the one leading up to game week 6. I think after game week 6, it will be the fact that you can set up a structure which doesn't depend on future transfers. So right now, everybody's thinking about, the LR's point on, I need 3 transfers, 4 transfers to do this and then do this. What if 2 injuries happen? What if you're starting Rico and Rico is dropped? What if something else happens? So that element of wildcard 6 is a little bit of a calmer wildcard where you're saying, I'm getting 5 players from Arsenal and Man City. I'm getting Boomo. Likely I'm getting Eze. That's 7 players that don't need to leave my team. So, and if you're then also carrying 2-3 transfers, it just feels like you're ahead of the game in the sense that now anything can happen. Haaland could get injured and I'll just react. I'll still be ahead of the game. So that's, I think, the value of wildcard 6, where it's a calmer time to look at stuff. And then lastly, data. Like we talked about it last week when people were wildcarding last week. It's just you'll have another couple of weeks. You'll see if is Kadioglu really the guy to get from Brighton? Is there another cheap striker? Is Van Nilsson looking great? Is he better than Semenyo? Things we don't know yet. The unknown unknowns. You may know a little more in game week 6.
But I feel like largely the information that we do know has only been substantiated. Like I think the big piece of information is Liverpool's defensive nows this year, but we saw Boomo and Eze as great picks. Now they are substantiated as great picks. So like there is a lot of very reliable information that is there for a game week 4 wildcard as well. Like I think the big piece is the Liverpool versus the Arsenal piece. And I do think it's easier to hide your Arsenal attackers because Villa have great fixtures and you have a 5 million attacker there, and Brighton have good fixtures and you have a 5.5 million forward there. So it's
You can hide
easier
your
to sort of
Brentford guys, because I think Brentford and Brighton have a perfect rotation.
yeah, exactly. So it's easier to hide it at the moment. But like why I'm not pulling the wild card is I have not lost faith in Newcastle, where people have substantially lost faith.
Yeah, this is what
People have substantially
your team
lost faith
looks
in
like.
Newcastle. I haven't lost faith in Newcastle, and I have committed to Palace defense. They've got a prime fixture game week 4, so there's no hurry there. So I'm like I'm not losing out on much. Like yes, Mooney's to Pedro would be really nice, but it needs to be done for a hit, which I can't do. Yes, having Eze over a Gordon would be really nice, but it's not worth a hit. And I don't mind playing Gordon against a Wolves defense that has looked very good either. And I think Munoz is perfectly fine against Leicester at home, despite him not being great. It's great. So that's where I am. And I have triple Liverpool, which is the primary important thing at the moment. Yes, it's not the ideal triple Liverpool because I think the ideal triple Liverpool is now Robbo over Jota, in my opinion. But that's that.
But short term, it's fine. And by the way, one point on Liverpool for all Jota Diaz owners, it's a 3 o'clock kickoff, game week 5, game week 6. Liverpool lineups have been out quite a bit earlier. So similar to City, Jota's not playing, you can find a way. Like we should know. Of course, we don't know for sure if he will, but it's not the end of the world. For people who hold, definitely hold on to Jota, Diaz, everybody. There is high upside in any of these fixtures.
With Diaz,
I just want to ask some.
What?
Go on, Zoph.
I was just saying with Diaz, the international break, I want to see when Colombia are playing. If they're playing on Wednesday, it's just a slightly bit concerning with the Saturday kickoff and the fact they have Champions League also midweek. I haven't to look into that schedule.
Yeah, that is a worry. Just some basic yes/no questions for you guys for wildcarders in Game Week 4. Would you have Kai Havertz in your wildcard 4 draft?
I think so. Just to prepare ahead, but I don't mind taking a short-term punt. Like I've seen one of the drafts from our Discorders that he's got Jackson in and with plan to move on to Havertz. Again, it depends how many transfers you're booking in or already have in the bank.
Agreed.
Would you have Watkins on your Game Week 4 wildcard?
No.
I'd be very tempted, but I don't know if budget allows.
That's like the budget is the problem.
Next 2 is incredible. Next 3.
If Watkins, like if you have Saka as a placeholder, and if Watkins is your placeholder for Kai in Game Week 6, I don't mind that. Like you need to decide which is the placeholder and which is the player you're committing to right now. Like I think that balance needs to be figured out because you need to have 3 Arsenal in Game Week 6. So that's scenario in which I wouldn't mind Watkins as a pick. What player is essential on Game Week 4 wildcard? Salah and Trent?
So a lot of people are saying, why do I need Salah? I can just do Jota and Diaz. The only problem is captaincy in Game Week 5. So who are you going to captain? If you're willing to captain a Jota or a Diaz, okay. Like, the same argument for Haaland holds true. You don't have to have Salah. You can get a Saka already and then get a Jota and Diaz, or one of the 2 and Robertson and Trent. But it's up to you.
Yeah, because
hey, man,
make a good point. Look at that. The captaincy matrix up here. Haaland, Game Week 5, Arsenal, Saka, Man City, Salah, Bournemouth at home, Watkins, Wolves, Son, Brentford, but nobody really owns Son right now, do they? Palmer, West Ham away, Isak, Fulham away. It's by far and away Salah is the standout option there.
And Salah is just the sharpest attacker in Liverpool at the moment. Like Zoph, I keep wishing Spurs didn't get Solanke because we kept singing the song of full preseason for Salah is just bloody important, etc., as well.
The 1.5 completely screwed the Salah draft.
The majority of the attack is coming down Liverpool's right. Like Salah is superior to Jota and Diaz. No, make no mistake. Like I want to cite that. Salah could have had another goal against United quite easily. And minutes is an important thing. And he still has a better and fit for preseason. He's a legend of the game. Like he's the best attacker in the Liverpool team. Like you need to weigh in that, and this matters when it comes to captaincy. Like so, I'm sitting with Jota versus Diaz, and I lost out 15 points to plus against United. Like that's not nothing, and not a lot of that has happenstance. Like Salah looked way more attacking than Jota, so like there's a difference between like you need to get a lot more luckier to come through with a Jota captaincy compared to a Salah captaincy. Like I just want to mention that it's that important in my opinion.
Should we move on to some of the quick discussion of the possible wildcard 4 drafts from some of our Discorders? Let's look at some of the structures they've gone with.
Sure.
This is one that's interesting. This is one he's gone without Salah. Do you guys think that's an option? This is from Anthony on our Discord. I'll just enlarge the image.
No, we just talked about this, Zoph. There is no captain here for Game Week 5.
Right.
Like Game Week 5, best captain by far is Salah. Game Week 6, best captain by far is going to be Saka. So if you have a route, do that. But you're taking a huge risk on captaincy, and you've seen how big captaincy is. This week, people captain Palmer, which was actually a fine captaincy, but when it goes wrong,
11
you saw
points.
this week they lost out straight 11 points, and that's when Palmer got this bonus. Or what is he? Did he get 2 bonuses?
He got 2 bonus, but he got the yellow card, so sort of balance. Because
Yeah,
nobody
okay.
captained Salah, who owned him. Very few did.
Correct.
Just a shout out to the risk takers out there. If you want to do this, which I don't think you should, the only way in which it is okay is then you need to have Ollie Watkins, because you're going for a high risk Wolves at home sort of captaincy option there. And you sort of hope that Watkins is fit by the time he has 2 weeks now in the IB to get fitter, and then 2 games after that. So you sort of are taking that risk, but it's a risk.
But I don't mind it. Like if people
Yeah.
wanted to go different, it's
Yeah, then because that's the game. Then you double down on the Watkins. Like I feel like there's no half measure. If you're going the other way, go fully and
Yeah.
try something.
correct.
This is similar to what we discussed our game week 4 wildcard. He's got Diaz in there, got the triple Liverpool, got the Jackson in temporary for Kai, but he doesn't have any Arsenal. That's another problem with the 0 Arsenal in this. No way you can get to a triple up with 3 by game week 6. Probably get a double up at best.
And FPL need to get better with showing how many transfers carried. Like right now, we don't know. If this team has 3 transfers carried, this is actually a great
I
team.
don't think he does, but might be.
But if it has 0 transfers carried or 1, then you're you're taking a lot of risk by that nothing new happens in the next 3 weeks. And a
Right.
lot of new things will happen. Champions League midweek, minutes will get curtailed for some big hitters and people will start to panic again.
Spot on there, Pras. This is again quite similar from Abdul Hamid. It's gone with Martinez in goal, but again, this is a Robertson Alexander Arnold double up, which I like a lot more. This is a quite even team. Again, you're not going with. He's got Muniz in there as a cheapie. He'll probably look to bench him later. He's got Semenyo in there. I like this draft. There's no weaknesses. There's no 4.0 defender either. What do you guys think? I think this is quite balanced from the ones I've seen so far. Obviously, no Arsenal. Again, big caveat.
Just too
Again,
many
if you
good
have
picks,
the
right?
luxury of transfers, it's pretty good.
Yep. There was one more that was this is the one with the Palmer, Salah, and Haaland and Trent. I just wanted to show to you guys the compromises. This is Flecken, Dunk, Lewis, Trent, Minte, Palmer, Rogers, Salah, Diaz, Pedro, Haaland. The bench is Leaf Davis, a dead 4.5 forward, and Collins. So effectively, Lewis is what is his 4th defender. That's not too bad. It's better than I thought it would be, to be honest. What do you
Not
guys
good
think?
long term. Like people say, I've been talking about spreading funds, but I went Salah and Haaland and squeezed my team. It was because it was a short term while there was no Europe, and that was the bet. If you're taking this team long term, then you're basically, the argument that they will have as counter argument, Salah will be sold to Saka and then funds will be there to upgrade where you want.
Yeah, exactly. Their entire thinking is that they either sell Salah to Saka or they sell Palmer to, let's say, Bumo in game week 6 and upgrade that 8th attacker, and then the squad is there. So like if you have a plan like that in place,
Booking in transfers is just a lot riskier than having a wild card to bail you out. That's my problem.
That's the problem.
Like
For
I was
sure.
fully ready if the Salah Haaland thing doesn't work that I wildcard in game week 4. Now it's the opposite has happened, so I'll wait another couple of weeks. But having a team structure that has too many premiums, you're just not setting up for long term. 2 injuries happen and suddenly the team looks dire. That's the only risk. And people, if they're willing to take the risk, fair enough.
Now, a couple of slides I wanted to share now for guys who are not using their wildcard. Now, this is a draft that for wildcard 6 that Pras sent me. He's now spread the funds around a lot more. He's taken Trent out. I'll just read it out to you guys so you can benchmark what you're gaining potentially in game week 6. Flecken, Konsa, Gabriel, Porro, Emerson, the 4.0 Brentford defender Van der Berg, I think, Bumo, Rogers, Eze, Saka, Foden, Pedro, Haaland, Havertz. That looks like quite a different squad than I would be building now. With Trent money out, the Salah money out. It enables a lot.
Exactly. And by the way, in this, you could, if you wanted, you can go Solanke instead of Havertz. Because Solanke, Havertz, Haaland will be like 3 popular forwards. at that point. So you could have Solanke here instead of Havertz if you wanted a double Arsenal defense and Saliba instead of Porro. But apart from that, I think the idea here is that it's a long-term setup. Like Bumo, Eze, Saka are not going anywhere. Haaland is not going anywhere for the foreseeable. Havertz could eventually, in 2 weeks, maybe become a Solanke if you really wanted to chase the Spurs' good fixtures. Defense, I think if you have a second stable defender, like I'm not a fan of Porro, but Spurs' fixtures are actually decent in the midterm from Game Week 6. And Flecken is a good pick for a while. Like I know people hate him, but Brentford fixtures are good enough. Another 4.5. So it just feels like you're going into this draft with 3 free transfers coming out of it. It feels pretty okay. And I think one downgrade that I feel you could do further is if Foden doesn't look fit enough, then you can get Foden down to a Bowen. I think West Ham's fixtures are great as well.
And then you get Trent.
And then you get Trent as your other defender.
Glue guy,
Or you
yeah.
get another 6.5 mid.
Palmer also has Brighton and Forest at home, huh? 6 and 7. So he will be in the conversation, I reckon. Then.
I mean, it's easier to jam Saka, Palmer, and Haaland than Salah, Palmer, and Haaland.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to, like, you go João Pedro down to a non-playing guy and you can get a Palmer instead. Like, you could do that as a short-term play if you really have a luxury of 3-4 free transfers. Could do that as well.
Cool. Just before wrapping up, Russ, a bit of a selfish question. This is my bus team, and I had also mentioned it earlier. Henderson, Munoz, Robinson, Trent, Gordon, Salah, Jota, Rogers, Muniz, Haaland, Cap, and Isak. I've already done Saka to Salah. Would you wildcard this team?
No.
No, right? That's what I'm thinking as well.
Fulham, 2 more good fixtures. Newcastle, 2 more decent fixtures. Triple up from Liverpool. Munoz, amazing next fixture. Like, if there's, like, this is true even for me. I've carried 3 free transfers. If there's like a big hitter injury, right? If Salah or Haaland get injured over IB, play the wildcard. Because then you can set up now for the long term because you don't need to squeeze your funds. So, but if there's no injury, I think it's fine.
Right, because basically everyone moved in on Fulham. I think Fulham are still good for the next 2 weeks. The fixtures aren't that great, West Ham and Newcastle, but they're much better at home. I'd say give your Palace guys and Fulham guys the next 2 game weeks. They're both home fixtures. And if you can get to a Liverpool max out and you have those guys, I really don't think there's a need to wildcard. That's the general macro point where I'm on.
The value of waiting is always there. Anything can happen. We are still learning. 3 game weeks is nothing. Palmer could again score another hat trick, and everybody says that Palmer is better than Haaland. Like, why are people having Haaland? We are one blank from Haaland or Salah away from, again, mass panic. Because right now, everybody thinks Haaland and Salah score 17 points every week. That's what they do. But that's not how it works.
Cool. Let's wrap up, guys.
Yeah, I think like knees need to be steady this season because there's many good picks. Like it's going to be swingy as hell every week. Like there are at least 6 picks that you won't have that are capable of double digits. You just got to take it on the chin.
Cool. Fantastic podcast. It's been a bit longer than I thought, but I thought we had a great discussion on what we've learned so far. We'll be back with a regular pod as usual on Tuesday. We will that time I don't think we'll be focusing as much on wildcard rather than look at the results and the fixtures that are coming in the short term.
Yeah, man, I want to talk about
Tuesday. We have to see when it is. Right?
Tuesday or Wednesday, yeah, we'll have it figured out next week.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. No worries. But we have more content before that as well. So make sure you're hitting the like and subscribe button.
Cheers,
Take care,
guys.
everyone.
Take care. See you soon. Enjoy the break.